following on from that sweetness and spice of that Indian chai, we're going overboard with the cream. As today, we have ourselves a triple cream milk stout. And boy, has it travelled some to get here. As we featured Tempest in our last review, a brewery that started life the other side of the globe, it seemed only fitting that we stay there. As today we welcome to the channel for the very first time, and possibly the only time, New Zealand's very own Cassels Brewing Co. Cassels is very much a family operation, founded by brothers Zach and Alistair, and inspired by the brewing done by their father and uncle at the family's summer home way back in the 80s. And some 2 decades later, it was the boys' turn to do a little brewing, and from then on, a passion was ignited. What really sets them apart from the rest, other than we don't tend to get too many Kiwi beers over here, is that they are a wood-fired brewery. And I can't recall coming across too many of those in my short time. But just as things looked like it was all plain sailing, they, the city of Christchurch, in fact the entire country, was devastated by the 2011 earthquake, wrecking everything they'd spent the last few years building. But in just 100 days, Cassels had risen from the rubble to brew once more. And much like Tempest in the last review, these guys too have a cracking website that's well worth checking out. Their story, it is well worth reading. And here it is, the Triple Cream Milk Stout. It's an amped up version of their core beer. But I gotta say, it's another that's not winning my award for Best Beer Name of the Year. But it's definitely got some cracking artwork to compensate. And let's see what they've got to say for themselves. Triple Cream Milk Stout, lusciously creamy on the tongue. This imperial strength milk stout is stronger and sweeter than its double cream sibling. Although I've not had the double cream, so I wouldn't know. You can expect the same full-bodied mouthfeel and bittersweet mocha aromatics, but with a hint of spice from the Mouter and Willamette hops. And there is a little QR code on the back. If you give it a scan, it takes you right to a page that tells you even more about the beer. But I'll tell you what, all that sounds right up my alley. So let's find out if it delivers. Let's get pouring. So it's a little chocolatey on the nose. It's a little rummy too. And I'm almost picking up some almost dark fruit vibes. It's giving me a real Black Forest Gatto sort of feel. Not getting much by way of cream or anything milky at all. It is really fluffy on the tongue. And that malty, dark, rich chocolate really starts to take hold first. And then right behind it, you're really getting a rummy alcohol kick. And it is really smooth and silky on the tongue. It is bitter and boozy in the finish. They themselves describing as being stronger and sweeter than the predecessor, and it's definitely strong. Not much of that sweetness is found so far though. Those milky lactose notes are starting to make their presence felt, but it is still that bitter, dark, rich chocolate and that boozy, rummy raisin that's really dominating the palate. And now we're down into the beer. Some of those heavy boozy notes have faded ever so slightly, and some of those promised creamy notes are starting to form. And I've got to say, it is becoming a little bit oily in the mouth. It's definitely coating the tongue, and it is not letting go. It's gone from being really light and fluffy in the mouth to being quite chewy and clingy. It has become somewhat of a different beer now. It's become more of the beer I actually expected it to be initially. It's a little milkier, a little creamier, and dare I say it, just a little sweeter. And that dark, rich, malty chocolate just layering the bitterness in the finish. So I wasn't quite expecting that. I was definitely expecting something creamy and sweet, just like they described. But wow, that sure wasn't it. Right from the nose, you sure do get a feel for exactly what you're in for. Huge, rich, dark chocolate and malts. Dark fruit and rum right at the fore. And that first sip, bang, that's exactly what you get. And although it is thick and really fluffy in the mouth, that's about as much as the cream as you get. As it's definitely more rum and raisin than vanilla sundae. And it doesn't just taste rummy, boy does it feel it too. It's big and it's boozy, and at 9% you'd be forgiven for thinking it was even more. There are a lot of stouts out there today that err on the side of dessert and being super sweet, and I've got to admit, I don't mind those at all. I've got a whole fridge full of them. There's a few more reviews of those coming. But this is definitely not one of those. This dessert is reserved purely for the adults. Think big, rich, heavy, and boozy Black Forest Gatto, and it carries on like that most of the way down. But as you do get into that tail, there is that little switch up on you, and some of those milky, sweet, and creamy notes start to make a little bit of an appearance. And before you know it, you've got a completely different brew on your hands. It becomes much chewier and sweeter and becomes more of the milk stout I was expecting all along. And the way that it finishes, I would be very, very keen in tracking down some of the previous versions, as it ends with me feeling like I could do with just a little bit more. And at the end of the day, that's gotta be a sign of a real good brew.